In this selection of videos, we're just going to have a look at the data handling cycle and how it might be taught at Key Stage 2. So Key Stage 2, this section here, which talks about collecting, analysing, evaluating and presenting data and information. And we're going to have a look at how we could use Flexidata to do this. So we don't have to do the whole thing in one go, particularly at Year 5. So we may think about doing the analysing and evaluating, presenting first, and then moving on to actually doing the whole data collection cycle. So the software that we're going to use is called Flexidata. Flexidata is just a straightforward data handling package which will work quite well for what we're going to try and do. And one of the nice things about it is, before we just dive right into the data handling cycle, there are some data files provided for us that we can use with the children to just analyse the data and carry out some queries and then present results. And there are quite a few data files here, some of which you might find appropriate for whichever topic you're doing, but I'm just going to show you the accident data file, which is the very first one on the list, and that's data about people who were involved in road traffic accidents. So we'll have a look at the software and the data. So I'm just going to start up Flexidata by just typing in Flexidata in the start menu, and it asks for a name when you first start it, and this usually appears in any printouts that you have. So I'm just going to type my name in and then just click on OK. So the program starts. I'm just going to resize it to fit it in to my recording screen, and I'm just going to open up the an existing file to begin with. So we'll just choose load a data file from disk, and here we can choose sample files, and then the accident file, it's stored as part of the installation, so it will be just there when you click on sample files, and then I can just go to open. The screen doesn't change at all, but the background of the screen doesn't change, but I do get a different button here now which says look at the data. So the way that you might want to introduce this topic to begin with is just to ask children to have a look at the data. And there are 119 records in this particular file, and on my screen you end up scrolling along. There are different ways of actually viewing the data. So at the moment it's a table. You can view it as a card and then click on next record, scroll through the records one at a time. You can also just view it as a list, which just shows the records in this format. So to begin with, we just want the children to be familiar with being able to use the terminology of record, and also be able to, if they view it as a table, be able to recognize that the column headings at the top are fields. And it's also useful for them to recognize that at the bottom it gives us a list of all of the records that are being displayed. We can also ask children to describe what data is being shown before we then get them to analyze it. So we can start off by analyzing the data in very simple terms. So we can carry out a couple of queries just on the gender, for example. So we know we've got 119 records in total, and to query the data we can click on this button here, where if you mouse over it, it says query on it. So we can query the data, start a new query, and this time we're just going to use the sex field here, because this is the field that has male and female indicated for each of the people involved in the accident. And then we say OK here, and we can now choose which of these we want to have as the operator. So what we're trying to say is that the sex is, and then we can ask for the possible values here, and we can start off by choosing male and then OK, and then we have some more options, but we can now run this query and it will actually run the query, and from our 199 records, it has selected 99 records which are male. And so we can assume that the other records are going to be female, so it's very gender biased, this data file, and so this can lead us on to maybe thinking about evaluating the data and trying to figure out why there may be more men than women involved in accidents.